Hello everyone, welcome back to 5 Minute GCSE. Today we'll be talking about a very important topic, Weimar's Germany's Golden Age. Certainly overlooked by some students, but this 1924-1929 period is the end of a very special era in Germany's history, so it's very important that you revise this. And before we start the video, I just want to let you know that if you need emergency cramming or long-term tutor support to get that grade 9 you need for history or other subjects, I have set up a link in the description, so check it out if that interests you. Anyway, let's get right in without further ado. As always, let's do a quick recap of what's happened so far. The early 1920s saw the Weimar Republic face numerous crises. Uprisings such as the Kapuch, the occupation of parts of their country by French and Belgian forces, and deadly hyperinflation in 1923. However, thanks to the work of competent statesmen like Gustav Stresemann, Germany survived these catastrophes. In fact, as I said, in the 1924 to 1929 period, the German recovery created a golden age in the Republic, where social and economic progress was evident. Now, what caused this golden age? Well, there was growing prosperity in Germany. There were signs of economic growth and rising living standards across the country. 1928 industrial production was higher than the 1913 value, and in 1928 alone, hourly wages saw 10% growth for many in the population. Between 1925 and 1929, exports, so selling goods to other countries, rose by 40%, highlighting economic revival. To assist poorer Germans, pension, health, and insurance schemes were even introduced in 1927. It was ahead of its time. Now, as a result of this, as Weimar citizens grew wealthier, people had more money and time to engage with the flourishing culture of the 1920s. This was particularly in the sphere of art, literature, and design. In 1919, Walter Gropius founded the Bauhaus School for Architecture, sparking an era of modernist, avant-garde art and design. The new objectivity movement began as artists started to focus on portraying everyday life and society in their pieces. George Gross, not sure about that pronunciation there, but focused on soldiers' trauma, and Otto Diess on inequality. Other avant-garde, new and experimental art movement like Dadaism became popular too. Cultural critics like Karl Kraus popularized satirical journalism, while the anti-war novel All Quiet on the Western Front sold over 1 million copies in 1928. And of course, if you want to do that supercurricular learning, I'm pretty sure there's been a new remake of All Quiet on the Western Front, an excellent film. There were also changes in cinema and nightlife. The film industry grew rapidly as Berlin became the world's capital for cinema. During this period, advanced films like Fritz Lang's Metropolis and Murnau's Nosferatu were all made in Germany. Actresses like Marlene Dietrich and directors like Ernst Lubitsch became known around the world. Schoenberg and other modern music composers like him became very famous, while the increasing influence of American culture led to cities such as Berlin and Munich becoming centers for jazz music. Theatre thrived too. Kurt Weill's collaborative play with Brecht, The Threepenny Opera, was a box office smash. By 1927, there were 900 dance bands in Berlin alone, and the city's cabaret bars acquired a reputation for their transvestite evenings as well as homosexuality. And of course this was criticized by more conservative and right-wing groups such as the Nazi Party. All of this impacted women especially, because during this liberal era of German history, the country led the world in terms of women's rights. All women over 20 were given the right to vote by the 1919 Weimar Constitution. In comparison, in the UK, all women above 21 only got the right to vote in 1928. They had high voter turnout, and by 1932, 112 women had been elected to the Reichstag. The 1920s saw German scientists, many of whom were Jews that were later persecuted, stun the world with the development of contraceptive devices like IUDs. By 1925, 36% of the workforce were women, and they occupied jobs in fields like the civil service. Women enjoyed social freedom. They could wear revealing clothing, smoke, drink, refuse to start families, and attend universities. This was despite political radicals like Adolf Hitler stating that the task of women is to bear and tend babies in his infamous 1925 Mein Kampf autobiography. Now, this may all sound very rosy and great, but there were of course underlying problems, even in this golden age. Germany's Cultural Revolution benefited big cities, so its effects displeased much of the rural population. Many saw it as a moral decline and wanted more traditionalism, with the Bauhaus Design College in Weimar forced out by local officials. The Nazis and Communists hated the new republic, and anti-Weimar parties consistently received around 30% of votes every election, even if they weren't as influential for now. Decision-making was still slow due to proportional representation, and governments continued to form weak coalitions. Small business owners suffered due to growth of large corporations, and unemployment remained an issue, never falling below 1.3 million people. And that's a useful statistic to remember. The German middle class, who had their savings wiped out during the 1923 hyperinflation, saw nearly no wage growth. Farmers were overproducing to compete with cheap imports, and those are buying goods from other countries. So many struggled due to lower food prices. Of course, low food prices means their profits, means their wages fall along with them. German industry, most importantly, became extremely dependent on American loans. What if the US suddenly demanded them back? And of course, that's the cliffhanger that I will leave you with here. You can probably predict what happens next. Now, before we end this video, of course, very good to do some PEC practice exam question. This is, I believe, a question 5. Very important to do. An 8 marker. In what ways did the lives of German people change during the Stresemann era, 1924 to 1921? Explain your answer. Now, this is poorly done by many, but it really is quite simple. You need to write 2 PEE, point evident explain, paragraphs. And for the top level, you need to link the 2 paragraphs together and ignore the or here, and show change over time to the group or people affected. So your point 1 would be one way that they were affected in the earlier years of the Weimar Republic was, and at the end of the explained paragraph, link it to the next point, which is another point on how they changed. So this links to the next way the German people's lives changed or were affected, regardless of what phrasing you use, and that'll get you the 8 marks you need in the exam. That is it. Now, thank you everyone for watching. Please subscribe, check out the link if you want to, and I will see you all next time.